Right, we're live. I think we're live. Let me... Trying to drown out as much of the background noise as possible. People, you lot are... You're on hand here to let me know what's going wrong, what's going right. Does the microphone sound alright? Does it need to come away a little bit? Is it too loud? Is it fine? Is the background noise too loud? It's always going to pick up a little bit of background noise because obviously I'm recording, directly off of a laptop. So then that means that it means that when you're recording off of a laptop, you can hear the laptop like working hard, maybe. I don't know what it is, and you can hear the laptop like breathing, if that makes any sense to you lot at all. You're always going to be able to hear a little bit of that. So I'm hoping that it's not too bad and that we can crack on and get on with anything. A little bit too laggy. Hardcore, few of you already in there. Sounds fine. Yep, I think it's good. I think we're all good. Let me just wait for a few of you guys to come in. Yeah. The white noise sounds like you're right next to a highway. Yeah, that's not good. That is not great. Hold on. What about now? What about now? Right now. Is the noise any better right now when I have it like that and it's up a little bit closer to me? People, please let me know in the chat right now. Let's see how the noise is, if it's any better. Now, one thing I do know is that it's only going to be coming out of one ear for you guys that are listening with headphones on. I'm really sorry about that, but I can't seem to get it sorted. And the big dog's good for that sort of stuff. Josh Aveste. So when I'm with him, I will make sure. Right, we got 10 likes on this. I've just made it number 11 by liking it myself. Can you lot please make sure you smash the like before we start? And before we start, let's lay down a few ground rules, right? If you lot are asking me any questions that turn out to just be absolute filth, like you were in the last live stream, they got to be super chats for me to answer them ones. But it's all right. Also, if you want your question read out, I'll make sure I try and read out as many as I can that are coming into that normal chat. If they're super chats, I'm going to see them. So I'll make sure all the super chats are prioritised. They get read out. I think we've got enough in here to start having a little chat about how things are going, right? So there's obviously a lot of talk at the moment about protests being held. Now, the first actual confirmed protest, I believe, that is going to be held, I think it's February 25th, isn't it? I think I saw it reported that it was going to be February 25th. And obviously the protest is against the ownerships. February 25th, 6 p.m, Bovril Gate, Stamford Bridge. So it's going to be a protest, blue call out, basically. Just quickly, we got a super chat that has come in. I'll quickly read that one out for you guys. It says a super chat's come in, but I can't see it anywhere. As soon as it comes in, as soon as it comes onto my stream, I'll read it out for you guys. There we go. Right, so the protest, 25th of February. Before I get into giving my exact thoughts on the protest and on whether the protest should go ahead, on whether it's the time to be protesting or not, on whether it needs more time and whatnot, let's run through how the fuck we got here. And it all started with, obviously, the EU and the UK, more importantly, imposing sanctions upon Roman Abramovich for his association with Vladimir Putin, a man that, the Prime Minister at the time of the UK, Boris Johnson, had been pictured with and had meetings with in the months prior to Roman Abramovich being sanctioned. So, talking of association, the whole world pretty much had a fucking association with Vladimir Putin, by the way. Now, I'm not going to go in to things that, if I'm being frankly honest, I don't really understand about, which would include the war, you know, in the Ukraine, Russia's invasion of the Ukraine and NATO, and all this sort of stuff that I just ain't here to talk about. But if we talk about affiliation from Roman Abramovich to Vladimir Putin, yes, there was an affiliation. They knew each other. But Vladimir Putin knew every world leader and many more people that weren't sanctioned. Do you know what I mean? So it then came down to, was Roman Abramovich profiting from Russia? And they deemed him to be. The UK did. They still do, by the way. But obviously the EU has downgraded that and don't deem Roman Abramovich to have now profited from Russia. So, sorry, 2 seconds, people. Alert box. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Cool. Right. Okay. So, now the EU has downgraded their sanctions. That doesn't mean the UK has downgraded their sanctions, but you would imagine they would soon follow, you know? But either way, the 30th of May 2022, Roman Abramovich is forced to sell Chelsea Football Club. He makes sure that when he sells Chelsea Football Club, he's got it written into the contracts of the new buyers. We are told, this is what we're briefed on, that they cannot sell the club for 10 years. They cannot withdraw profit from the club for 10 years. And for that reason, we initially had very high hopes, I believe, in my opinion. I think that we kind of looked at it. We saw Todd Boehly come in, and it was Todd Boehly. It was very much led by Todd Boehly. We didn't know much about Eghbali and Blueco and whatnot. It was Todd Boehly. He was like the front and centre man. He was coming in, and obviously he had been successful with sports teams in the sporting world and industry in the past. Obviously no involvement in football or in soccer, as you call it in the States, but you know, had been involved in sports in some sort of capacity. Now he came in, and when he came in, there was I'm not going to call it a Galactico vibe, but Todd Boehly, it pretty much seemed like his priority was winning, and winning soon, you know. And the briefings that would come out, very, very different, right? And this is where we need to distinguish a difference between Todd Boehly, between Clearlake, between Blueco and between Eghbali, for example. So, do you remember, like, at the time, I probably gave him a little bit of grief, to be fair, in terms of Boehly would say things like, yeah, we're going to beat Real Madrid 3-0 or 4-0 or whatever it was, and stuff like that. And I just think that's just stupid to say something like that, because you know we're not going to. And that was down to our league form and everything like that. But now, you know, the briefings that come out of Stamford Bridge are, we don't need Champions League football this season, and so unambitious, right? Now, Todd Boehly's first season, right? And again, I'm referring this to the Boehly season, because I feel like by the time Winstanley, Eghbali, and the rest of the guys sort of got their hands on things and started to run this club in more of a model, it had come by the second season. So let's have a look at the first season. And in that first season, you had the likes of, and we'll go into this, a couple of loans in there that I'll speak about first, and that is obviously Dennis Zakaria. Remember him? He was a good player. João Felix. João Felix's loan spell at Chelsea, I thought was quite good, although it started with a red card in his debut against Fulham. Davidatro Fofana signed for 12 million, okay? Andre Santos, Cesar Casadei, Kane Chukwuemeka, These are all players that you could argue fitted the mould of what we're seeing the directors do at the minute, which is we're only signing young players and we're signing them for what we feel are fees that will become a lot bigger over time and then potentially sell on. But as well as those signings I've spoke about there, you had the likes of Aubameyang sign, Koulibaly sign, Raheem Sterling sign, Cucurella, Fofana, Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez. Some are hits, some are misses. But what I can say about those players, right, is especially when you look at players like, you know, over the age of, let's say, 28, which we wouldn't even sniff near now, in terms of Aubameyang, in terms of Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, who I think was about 26 when we signed him or something. You look at those players and you say, well, no, they were signed for the here and now. And I think that if now, and especially in this winter transfer window when we also desperately needed it, right? If now we were signing these sort of guys, I think that the fan base would be a little bit more hesitant to maybe analyse it as, you know, definitively bad in terms of our transfer dealings and whatnot. But it was definitely the window after that when the sporting directors, Winstanley, Stewart, Eghbali and that, it kind of looks like they had taken over things. Now, in that following window, you got the likes of Moises Caicedo signed. You can't really fault that. Like, I think for any player that cost 100 million, they're always going to have to be superstars, aren't they? Because of that price tag, and they're always going to be labelled with that. But I think that Moises Caicedo's been brilliant, to be honest. Romeo Lavia, 62 million euros was signed in that window. Obviously, his availability has been poor. When he's on the pitch, I think he's been fucking brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Christopher Nkunku, that was a pre-agreement that had come in that window, so I'm not even going to count that one. But Cole Palmer was one that was signed, 47 million euros. Transfer market's got it listed as. I've heard, 45 million quid with add-ons and whatnot, and I think those add-ons were actually to do with appearances that he made. So even if you say 45 million quid, he's now worth 3 times that. He's our most important player, to be honest. Then you got Axel Disasi, 45 million, complete overspend. Nicholas Jackson, Ugachukwu, Robert Sanchez, Petrovic, David Washington, Angelo, Diego Moreira. That's it, pretty much, for that window. So, definitely some hits. Romeo Lavia, if he can come over that injury, the injury spells that he's had, will definitely be a hit. Moises Caicedo, no one's debating that one. Cole Palmer, no one's debating that one. Nicholas Jackson, some might sit on the fence, some might look at it and say that for 34 million quid, around that, he's versatile. He maybe isn't an all-out number 9, but maybe when an all-out number 9 does come into the club, he's still going to be playing for us. He could be playing off of a wing, or if we change system and whatever. I think he's a very good player, Nicholas Jackson. I think he's a very good player. Am I sure that he's definitely a number 9? I don't know, but he's our best number 9 option that we've got at the club at this moment in time. Leslie Ugachukwu, 25 million quid. I don't think someone's going to be coughing up 50 million quid for Leslie Ugachukwu right now. And there'll be a lot of you guys that don't care about profit and whatnot. But you've got to remember that for the most part, when Roman Abramovich was at Chelsea Football Club, FFP, PSR wasn't a thing. So you didn't need to care. And maybe if it was a thing, you would need to care. And actually, you might argue it and you might go, well, hold on, no, Roman's last few seasons. Yeah, in Roman's last few seasons, as much as I love the man, literally, Roman Abramovich is forever in my heart, right? And compared to these owners, you know the score, So I'm not downplaying, I'm not backhanding, I'm not dissing Roman Abramovich, but we talk about his spending and whatnot. It did start to go down, And when PSR came in, he found things harder. You look at the departures in his last window, right? In his last transfer window, or last season that he was in charge of the club. The departures, right? And we'll go from smallest fee to highest fee, right? So departures: Giroud, Victor Moses, Zappacosta. Then look at this, right? So we start off here with 23 million euros. Mark Gahey to Crystal Palace. Kurt Zouma for 35 million euros from Chelsea to West Ham. Fikayo Tomori, 35 million euros to AC Milan. Tammy Abraham, 41 million euros to Roma. Gahey, Zouma, Tomori, Abraham. Roman Abramovich sold 4 academy graduates in that last window, right? So, listen, I'm not painting no bad picture of Roman Abramovich. He signed Romelu Lukaku in that window, and despite me feeling like Romelu Lukaku is probably the worst or one of the worst signings of the of the last decade or so for Chelsea Football Club, I thought he was going to be a hit when he came in. But what I'm trying to get across to you here is, when we speak about the ownership and whatnot, selling off all our academy graduates, I don't think that had a manager have gone to Roman Abramovich and said, look, he's our best player in that position, they'd ever sell an academy graduate off. So say, for example, if Roman Abramovich employed Mauricio Pochettino and he said, I want Conor Gallagher, we wouldn't have sold Conor Gallagher. Yeah? If Enzo Maresca went to Roman Abramovich and said, I want Trevor Chalobah, I don't think we'd have sold Trevor Chalobah. But if, let's say, for example, Roman Abramovich said to the manager at the time, right, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, Kurt Zouma, Mark Gahey, are they starters for you next season? Bearing in mind that season they had Lukaku and Kai Havertz, who had just scored a Champions League winner in the final, up top as options. And at the back, mate, we still had Rudiger, Thiago Silva, Christensen, Azpilicueta, all getting on in age a little bit, but we also had some younger ones coming through and whatnot. I think that you can sort of look at that and you can say, right, PSR, FFP, all that sort of shit would have forced Roman's hand. He would have had to have sold academy graduates as well. So that's something that the ownership are obviously doing that has pissed everyone off, but Roman would have had to do it, which would have pissed people off, I think, to an extent. But we love Roman, so we don't mind it, right? What we don't like is the likes of, let's say, for example, players like Caleb Wiley coming into the club, 10 million or whatever. We're never going to see him play. Matisse Amagu, he was on the bench the other night. We let go of 3, possibly how you class Renato Vega, whether you class him as a midfielder, defensive midfielder, left back, centre back, whatever. Possibly 4 midfielders go in the transfer window. We brought in Amagu, right? Now, he was on the bench the other night against Brighton. We never saw him come off the bench. Is he really something that can step up? So, I don't know. People, I'm obviously going to get to stuff in the chat. If you want something read out immediately, send over a super chat. I'll make sure that gets read out because that comes in straight away. But I want to carry on where I'm going with this. So, when we look at the ownership, right, some of my biggest gripes with this ownership is, since you sort of started to hear the rumours of fallings out between Eghbali and Todd Boehly stepping away from the fourfold, right? And then you stop seeing as many of the signings in terms of signings that I believe were brought in with the intention to move Chelsea up the league, right? So, we spoke about Boehly's season with Raheem Sterling and Fofana, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez. Those are even Koulibaly, right? Even Koulibaly. I know he turned out to be shocking, but intention of moving us up the league for sure. No one can deny that, right? The next season, I think Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia were signings that were made with the intention of moving us up the league. Cole Palmer, yes, he turned out to be our best player, but how much did they know about that? Did they definitely know that they were going to be guys that could really firmly cement us in being top of the competition with the likes of Newcastle, Aston Villa and those guys to get back into those Champions League spots? I don't know. And then we look at the signings from this season and we look at the likes of Pedro Neto. Yeah, definitely. This isn't the Chelsea of old, so I don't want to compare it to the Chelsea of old, but I don't think when, let's say, his namesake, Pedro, came to the club, you know, Pedro on one side, Willian on the other, I don't think the Chelsea fans thought, right, this is the answer. We thought, great, yeah, good player. This is the answer to win us the league and whatever. I don't feel we've thought about Pedro Neto yet. He gets us Champions League football or whatever, but I think we were happy enough with the signing. I'm happy with the signing. I know he's been a little bit out of form, but we've all been a little bit out of form. João Felix, 52 million. I like João Felix. I really like João Felix. I wish Nkunku had gone and João Felix had stayed. I think we'd be better equipped right now. But, you know, 52 million just to get rid of Conor Gallagher, who they needed to get rid of for PSR reasons and whatever, and to make profit, that is not a good one for me. Kiernan Dewsbury, he's been shit. Philip Jorgensen, I've got a feel. I want Jorgensen to start in the next match, you know, but I've got a feeling Jorgensen might be worse than Sanchez, and we just haven't seen it. That's my gut feeling. Omari Kellerman, who? Mike Penders, who? Aaron Anselmino, who? Matisse Amagu, who? Renata Vega came in, looked lively, looked decent, looked up for it. Now doing well for Juventus. Pretty similar to João Felix, doing well for AC Milan, but not, you know, not getting him. Not getting in. Mark Yu, 5 million quid, right? 5 million quid for Mark Yu. Now, 5 million quid for Mark Yu, and we'll start to speak about the PR that's coming out around the club. Now, I've just seen a super chat come in, so I'm going to read it straight out. The super chats will get read out straight away. It's from Priyanka Ray, I believe. Our problem with this ownership is ambition to win here and now. Change the model, sack the directors, or piss off. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Really appreciate that. Yeah, understand it. Completely understand it. The ambition to win here and now is something that I'm questioning massively at the moment. So I'll get onto that when I sort of wrap up where I'm at in terms of, do I want the ownership now and whatnot. Change the model, sack the directors. Now, that's very interesting. Bringing in the Brighton guys, right? Now, this will bring me on to some quotes from Meg Barley. Now, listen to this. And now we're, in my opinion, kind of feeling like Egg Barley is playing more of a role than Todd Boehly is, whereas at the start, Todd Boehly was the forefront, right? Egg Barley, you don't have to spend crazy money on payroll for players. There are teams in the Premier League that spent 10% of what the top 5 or 6 teams spend on payroll. Well, hold on. Shouldn't we be in the top 5 or 6? Shouldn't our ambition to be number 1 be to be number 1? Yet you're talking about teams from 7th downwards there. That makes no fucking sense. We hired a coach from Brighton and we think they are one of the best run teams in the Premier League. Their founder/owner has a sports gaming/data background. He spends 10% of the payroll and wins almost as much. Almost as much. Almost. What's almost? What's almost? Getting to a final and not winning it? Almost as much. Almost as much as who? Because who are you comparing us to when you say almost as much? Because almost winning something would be finishing second in the league or getting to a final and losing. I've never fucking seen Brighton in a Champions League final. I've never seen them finish second in the league. So where is your ambition? Almost. So what do you believe? You believe we want to be almost as good as Brighton? Or you believe that with the stature of the club and the money that we've got, we can be better than Brighton? Is that your belief? I don't know. But those quotes are fucking shit. Thank you very much, Priyanka, for the super chat. I'm going to get back to it. All the super chats will be read out immediately. Any super chats that come in will be read out immediately. But carrying on talking about this ownership. Now, I think that recently the bad run of form has really turned the volume up on the background noise, which is the things that are going wrong at boardroom level. And at boardroom level, prioritising success on the pitch right now is something that I think is really concerning for a lot of fans. Really concerning. Now, Jose Feliciano, I believe it is, Clearlake and joint co-owner of Chelsea in 2022, said Chelsea was not really run like a business previously, but for other means, profit was not at least one of the significant goals. At the same time, people would say it's one of the best properties in that sector in the league. So he's talking about Chelsea not being run like a business previously, profit not being a significant goal. Roman Abramovich in that same year, I will not be asking for any loans to be repaid. This has never been about business nor money for me, but about pure passion for the game and club. Now, Chelsea fans will hear those quotes and they'll think, oh my God, like, these owners are awful. And in comparison to Roman Abramovich, they are. We know this, yeah? But I've got to break it to you lot. In comparison to Roman Abramovich, every club's owners are shit, aren't they? Really? In comparison to Roman Abramovich, there might be 2 or 3 in world football. And I'm on about at the top, right? And you can banter and say, oh, Chelsea are in the Conference League. I'm on about Champions League level clubs, right? Which were 2-time winners, yeah? So don't put Arsenal there and don't put us there just because we're not in it this season. How many have they won and how many have we won? We're 2-time winners of the UEFA Champions League. Now, when you look at Champions League level clubs, right, I would say that, you know, whose owners really stack up to Roman Abramovich? Not many. But the problem now, and the reason for the protests, which I can see, is that the fan base are now starting to feel like this ownership just aren't prioritising winning on the pitch here and now. I've just seen a chat come in. Man City has pretty good owners. Yeah, they do, but they've got 115 charges against them. And Roman Abramovich got us a transfer ban. Roman Abramovich would have probably got us another transfer ban by now. We're failing to comply. That's why I said in that transfer window we saw the likes of Tomori, Tammy Abraham, Mark Gahey and Kurt Zouma, all academy graduates, be sold, right? I'm under no illusion. I'm not saying that there's no chance that Abramovich may have never sold a Trevor Chalobah, a Mason Mount, another guy that's come through the academy, Conor Gallagher, for example. That could have all happened, by the way. That could have all happened. But what he wouldn't have done is spread out 100 million or 120 million's worth of transfer fees over 7 wonder kids who are 18 years old, who have a really high ceiling. He'd just spent it on 2 players, maybe even 1, that he felt could benefit us, come in and take us back up to the top, wouldn't he? You know? And this is the thing, and I'm gonna nick this from Joe Cole, right? It's a point I heard Joe Cole make, and it's really, really good, this point. He said that these wonder kids that are being brought in, right, their ceiling is really high, but the reason why the likes of Joe Cole when he was young and Cristiano Ronaldo when he was young and got bought to Man United, the reason why the likes of these players, Eden Hazard, when he was young, the reason why these players were brought to the level they were at is because they were playing with senior figures, you know? When Ronaldo came into Man United, he had Roy Keane there. He had Scholesy there. He had Gary Neville in behind him. He had Ryan Giggs over on the other side. He had senior players there that have been there, done it, won it, worn the t-shirt. Joe Cole, when he came to Chelsea, he had JT there, Marcel Desailly there. You know, he had Frank Lampard alongside him in midfield, not far off his age himself, to be fair, but senior players. Emmanuel Petit was there in that season that he was bought in, I believe. You know, World Cup winner. So you need senior players. You need it. And the way the club is being run at the moment in terms of, oh, tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll win tomorrow, is bad. The PR is awful, right? We got Matt Law at the minute who likes to tweet stuff out. He's pretty much in the pockets of the ownership, in my opinion. It's funny, right? S. Johnson Sport. This was a tweet that came out from apparently, you know, inside the club or whatnot. Enzo Maresca was told he. Sorry. Let me read the Matt Law one first. And we all know Matt Law's recent tweets, yeah? So we all know about Matt Law's recent tweets where he's sort of distancing Chelsea from the need to achieve anything this season, right? Matt Law tweeted when Enzo Maresca was named the manager. Chelsea's next manager will be under pressure to deliver UEFA Champions League football and compete for trophies. Yeah? Now, we have tweets coming out. Enzo Maresca was told he was not expected to qualify for the Champions League until next season. Chelsea are happy with the job he's done so far, and they also sympathise with the injuries. There is no tomorrow. Sly or Sylvester Stallone. It's not actually Sylvester Stallone that says there is no tomorrow, is it? It's Apollo Creed. There is no tomorrow. Fucking love Rocky. Sorry. Everyone will just stop getting shot. What a film. Right. 2 seconds, people. Right. So, this brings me on to where we're at right now. Am I going to be at the protests for the ownership to go? I'm not at this second in time right now. But do I feel happy with how the club is being run right now? No, I don't. We are 2.5 years into the project, yeah? The process, some might call it, and I'm not happy with these 2.5 years, right? But life has middle ground. Life is not black and white. There is middle ground, right? And I'm not happy in terms of where we're at, right? But does that not mean there haven't been things that have happened under this ownership that I am happy about? There has. There definitely has. I actually think that getting the wage bill down is a fairly good thing. I actually do think it's a fairly good thing. Because if you haven't got one thing to moan about, you'll have another thing to moan about. And I think that if we hadn't got what we have to moan about, we'd moan about the fact that we still got the likes of Romelu Lukaku earning 300 plus grand per week, you know? Raheem Sterling, hopefully we can get rid of him, but he was on 325 per week. And some big wages being played out to players that what they're contributing on the pitch don't align to that. So, right? I think that bringing the wage bill down is not the worst thing in the world. I think that the signings of Caicedo, Cole Palmer, Malo Gusto, I think some of those signings have been really, really good. But I think that the biggest fault in this ownership for me is that they're not prioritising success on the pitch right now. They're prioritising profit. And a club that prioritises profit will very rarely be able to do both. They'll very rarely be able to do both. So it's not that I don't share the same feelings as everyone that I know that will be at the protests, right? It's not that I don't share those same feelings. I definitely do share those feelings at the minute. But for me to plant my flag in the ground, right, I feel that I have to have a concrete definitive answer on something. And at this moment in time right now, I reckon I'm about... no, I am. I'm one transfer window away from having that definitive answer on things. The briefing's horrendous. The words that are coming out and the stuff that the club is feeding to the press that they've got in their pockets to be able to speak about. Like, Todd Boehly Vivid Seats doesn't get spoke about. Where's the headlines? Where are Sky speaking about that? Where are mainstream media speaking about that? It's not often, is it? You know? Negative stuff. But you'll hear briefings from the club coming out via Matt Law, etc. that, you know, we're confident. And we don't care that we've gone out the FA Cup. I'm paraphrasing here, but we don't care that we've gone out the FA Cup because it doesn't really matter. Because we can focus on the league. Well, where was the fucking focus on the league when we lost 3-0 at Brighton? These things aren't acceptable for Chelsea. And as Chelsea fans, we have grown used to the feeling of supporting a club that do not get mugged off like that. Yeah? We go out the cup to Brighton. We go there 6 days later to face them again. We pump them. We absolutely win by any means necessary in that game. That should be how it is. But at this moment in time, do we have an injury crisis? Yes, that's not deniable. Is it the ownership's fault that we've got an injury crisis? I'm not too sure you can say it is, you know, because they sacked the old injury team, brought a new injury team in, or medical team, and it hasn't improved stuff. So the injuries date back under Roman Abramovich, so we have to compare that and say that we've had those injuries. Could they have put us in a better position right now? Could they have seen that the tide was very much turning, our form was slipping, our front line was going stale, we were starting to concede goals, and done more in that last transfer window? Yes. And that is the thing that places the nail on the coffin for me is this last transfer window, right? I understand it. The Todd Boehly Vivid Seats, the Eghbali comments on profit, the making it harder for members, not season ticket holders, members to get tickets to the game, right? That is something that disgusts me. Like, we shouldn't be having to try hard to get tickets to the games. If you're a member, you pay a membership fee, yeah? So you should be getting tickets to the game as and when you want those tickets, right? So, again, those things in the background were bubbling. They were bubbling. But the thing that placed the nail on the coffin for me was this last transfer window. Aston Villa, they have been great in the Champions League and whatnot, but they didn't really perceive their season to be going the way that they wanted it to be. They went out, they were proactive in the transfer market. Spurs did the same. Proactive in the transfer market. Brought in a guy in Matthias Tell who we probably should have bought in. And Spurs brought him in on a loan. How come we weren't able to get him? Do you know what I mean? Doesn't make any fucking sense. But we... In fact, there probably is no but. We were shit in the transfer window. We brought in one player, right? However, I think the ownership may have understood that PSR reasons we can't really bring anyone in, yeah? Now, this is why the nail's on the coffin. If we can't really bring anyone in, there's two things that you can do immediately. They're in your hands, you can do them immediately, and I promise you, does it make us, you know, significantly better? Maybe even not. But does it make us stronger and better? Yes. And those two things are recall the loan spells to Petrovic, who is the best goalkeeper at Chelsea Football Club, yet is out on loan at Strasbourg, who the ownership own as well. Recall Andre Santos. We need him in that midfield. You saw the other night, Caicedo subbed off. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who has been rubbish for us all season, subbed on. Amargu, who's just been signed in that window, left on the bench. So he can't be any good, can he? You know what I mean? And they go, well, the things you'll hear is, well, you can't really factor in an injury crisis like this, and we thought we had enough depth and felt we had enough depth. Why can't you? Super chat just come in from JR24. Thank you very much, bro. Palmer won't stay without UEFA Champions League. We need to change now. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say Palmer's going to leave immediately. We've got him on a long-term contract and things like that. I don't think he'd force his way out. But you're right. You are right. Cole Palmer is a player that deserves to be playing Champions League football. By the way, I've not given up hope on us playing Champions League football this season. I don't think this is going to be the form that we see until the end of the season. I think we're going to have another good run of form. I do feel that in myself, and I feel that the squad's good enough to get that. I think that we're so young that it's very, very hard to be able to come through the bad moments. So let's say, for example, right, the 2-2 draw against Bournemouth. If we had Thiago Silva in the team, and if we had N'Golo Kante in the team, yeah? I mean, both of them are still playing. So I'm not on about prime. I'm on about them now. This moment in time right now. If we had them two in the team, that's a match we'd probably win. The Fulham game, that's a match we'd probably win. Not even draw. We lost that, but that's a match we'd probably win. Yeah? We don't concede those 2 late goals. If we had that experience in the team. Do you see what I mean? So I think that the inexperience costs us. But to come back to your super chat, JR24, and thank you very much for that. I think that the inexperience has been costing us. I think that we will get a run of form together. And I feel like one run of form with, let's say 8 games, 10 games, where we only lose once and we get a couple of draws and win the rest. I think that'll be enough. Because I think that the work we've done early on in this season will have benefited us massively. 2-6. I'm just going to have one of my CBD gummies. Supreme CBD. Shout out. Very good for your recovery. CBD. CBD oil. CBD gummies. Whatever you want. So. Sorry, that was a mouthful. I was speaking about the press briefings and the way they've said, oh, well, you couldn't foresee for this injury crisis and we're still confident we had enough. Well, how? How can't we foresee for that injury crisis? JT was made captain at 21. Chip Saunders. I don't think he was, mate. I don't think he was. Pretty sure he wasn't. Because how old was JT when Desai was in his last season? And Desai was captain. And I reckon JT was about 24 then, 23. So I don't know if he was, I don't know if he was. But, yeah, I mean, being able to foresee the injury crisis, well, if you look at every season since we won the Champions League, we've had an injury crisis. And Mark Yu as the backup, fair enough, right? You could say, oh, well, Nkunku has scored 15 goals in 15 starts for the club and whatnot. But they've all been against shitters, haven't they? They've all been against rubbish teams. Southampton and... who else did he score against? I mean, he scored against Bournemouth. That's a good side. But apart from that, they're Conference League goals and Barrow in the Cup and stuff like that. So, I don't think, and the fan base don't think, that he's a number 9. Jackson, good injury record, but if Gu is your backup, right, and you're confident that you've got enough, whether or not you got a bargain on him and you feel you got a bargain on him, yeah, you bought Gu for 5 million. You bought David Datro Fofana for 10 million and you didn't deem him good enough. You bought David Washington for close to 15 million and who fucking knows where he is? He should be on the back of milk cartons because no one's fucking seen him in ages. You know what I mean? So how could you have deemed Mark Gu good enough if you haven't dropped your standards? This ownership has dropped their standards. And I'll come back to the nail on the coffin. The reason the nail is sitting on the coffin and not hammered into the coffin, and I'm not ready to say, right, these lot need to go, is because I believe they have a window to save things. The summer transfer window is what I believe they have to save things. And part of... I understand the tide's turned, right? George is blue co out. George Benson I'm on about. Eunice, blue co out. Not sure about Jan at Football Therapy. Not sure about the Chelsea Fan TV boys and whatnot. I'm trying to think who's other Chelsea fans on YouTube. But either way, a lot of them have gone Blueco out now, right? And I understand that. The reason that I'm like leaning over the cliff and I haven't yet gone Blueco out is that I think that I have to understand that we are blessed as Chelsea fans, and there'll be a lot of younger viewers. I'm 30 years old. There'll be a lot of younger viewers, right, that never experienced Chelsea being a side that weren't winning titles, you know? I've been very lucky because from when I started watching Chelsea, we were winning trophies. We weren't winning titles, we were winning trophies, and then we started winning titles and whatnot, and it carried on for the best part of a couple of decades until things dropped off, right, under new ownership. So I've been very blessed, and therefore I think that if you would have said to me before Roman Abramovich took over that we would have had the run that we had, I'd have said, mate, I'd bite your hand off for that, and I'd give up 5 years of no success just to have had that, right? Bear with me. Don't jump on me straight away. But then, when the new ownership came in, I kind of said to myself, right, I want to be as realistic as possible here, yeah? And I want to give it enough time. And I think that every ownership kind of learns on the job. You look at Arsenal, bearing in mind they've not fucking won anything, but we can't deny they have improved massively as a team. There were times when they wanted the Cronkies out, and now you don't really hear as much about it and whatnot. There were times when Liverpool wanted their ownership out, and then, you know, success on the pitch quietens down that noise. But actually, part of what the ownership do quietens down that noise, because managers are learning on the job, players are learning on the job, and owners are learning on the job. They are learning on the job. And I want to give the ownership that, by the way, again, to state, I am at the minute very, very angry with, disappointed with and whatnot. I want to give them one more window to get things right. And if we start bringing in some senior players in this next window, right? If we recall the guys that we want recalled, super chat, I'm going to get to it 1 second, and things start going the way that I want to see them go for Chelsea Football Club, then I'm willing to give it a little bit of time. If this shit carries on, I'm all in. I'd be the ownership out. But ultimately, and I'm just going to read out the super chat. What if we win against Villa unexpectedly? Will the protest be successful? Your thoughts? Priyanka Ray, thank you very much for the super chat again. Listen, again, like I say, success on the field does lead to the noise quietening down a little bit. It does. It definitely does. So it won't stop the protest. It won't make the protest be... Well, let's speak about the success of the protest. Now, you guys would have seen the protest against the Super League, right? And that was a successful protest. It worked. But it came from 20 Premier League clubs, mate. Most significantly, from the 8, I think it was, or the 6. I think it was the 8. Was it the 6? It was the 6 that had signed up. Most significantly from them, but 20 Premier League clubs. Maybe even Championship clubs, I don't know. But 20 Premier League clubs were all protesting against it. Fans were protesting against it, yeah? It was a huge, huge thing. Other than that, not one Glazers out protest ever worked. Green and gold until the club was sold. Went on for 2 decades. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal, Liverpool, I've seen Everton, I've seen protests at so many ownerships, and they never fucking work. They never work, yeah? Mate, like... Can I say this on stream? Can I say this on stream? Fuck it, I don't give a fuck. I've been to protests, yeah? Non-football. I've been to protests. Forcing yourself to take a certain type of you-know-what, yeah? During that old time when they wanted jab passports, let's call them, yeah? When they wanted them. I've been to anti-that protests, yeah? Probably probably 500,000 people marching through London, anti-restrictions, anti the whole lockdowns, anti sticking the thing in the arm, yeah? The media reported on it and said that groups of thousands, groups of a few thousand, there was 500,000 of us walking through London, yeah? Ultimately, that protest wasn't successful. And that was something that genuinely was a concern for people's health. Depopulation of the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that wasn't even successful to an extent. The protests won't be successful. That's the cold hard truth of it. Doesn't mean I won't get involved. Doesn't mean I won't back it and spread the message and whatnot. But they won't be successful. They won't be. That's the truth that you don't want to hear. Because contractually and whatnot, it's down to the ownership. So what they'll do is they'll do a Glazers. They won't turn up at games. A lot of time they don't turn up at games already. But that's the problem with it. That's the problem with it. So to summarise, because we've been live for nearly an hour now, to summarise where we're at with things, in my opinion, I honestly don't think that this ownership are prioritising winning in the here and now. It's not that I don't think it. They've made it very clear that they're not. And it pisses me off. But they've got one window to get things right. And in that time that it takes us to get to that window, 4 months or so, right? In that time, not only do they have to get the transfer strategy right, they have to sort the PR strategy out. 100% have to sort this fucking PR strategy out. Stop taking us for fucking idiots. Roman never done that. Even Ken Bates, do you know what I mean? Looking back, like, don't take us for fools. Yeah? Stop all this shit. The briefings coming out of the club. Stop force feeding the manager words. But at the same time, right? If you are stuck in a bad position, you try and work with what you've got. So, I don't know. Someone's ripped my comments now, seem to be being muted. Don't see any comments being muted, mate. I've just been giving my thoughts on stuff for the start of this, and I'm going to get into the chat. I'm going to only be prioritising the super chats, but I will get into the chat. But yeah, so I'll start getting into things now. I've given you my thoughts on the ownership. I've given you my thoughts on the standing, where we're at right now. Start getting your questions in. Start getting your super chats in. I'm going to be live for about another half hour or so. So whether you want to keep it Chelsea, football related, little bit of boxing stuff and whatnot, we just get them all going. So get your stuff in here now. Right. Okay. Let's have a little look. Get a big stud horse number 9 like Chris Wood. It's funny that I laugh because he scored so many goals, hasn't he? By the way, let's check the United score. Do you know what it is, right? I would have watched the United Spurs game while I was doing this, but I'm obviously watching it on the TV behind, so it doesn't make sense, and my setup doesn't really work to watch behind. Or I've got to pay for it on Now TV, and I'm not doing that. Paid for the Chelsea game the other day. Spurs 1-0 up against Man United. Whoo. Who would I rather win at Spurs and Man United? Like, I mean, you'd rather just a draw, wouldn't you? Let's guess who scored for Spurs, because I don't know. Let's take a wild stab in the dark. Oh, it'd be so ironic if it was Matthias Tel. Don't be Matthias Tel. 1-0 Spurs. Who scored? James Maddison. There you go. That's not too bad. Is Matthias Tel even on the pitch? No. Oh, yeah, he is. Playing number 9. Oh, so he can play number 9. JT was made captain when he was 23, my bad. Yeah, you weren't far out. Mate. But yeah, I did think it was about 23. Yeah. Let's have a little look here at the chat. Up the Chelsea. The data works for sure, but what the data can't show is the player's attitude. Yeah. Yeah. I think data can show player attitude a little bit, because if there's enough data there, you'll be able to see if a player's performances on the pitch are unreal, but he doesn't get picked enough. Then you could read in between the lines and say, well, hold on, he might not be getting picked because he's not trusted by a certain amount of managers that he's worked with and whatnot. And I think data can a little bit, but yeah. Sean Garrity says, Tell playing well. Yep. I want Spurs to win, so Goldbridge has a cow. Tell causing a bit of mischief from what I see. Yeah, Tell looks good, man. Tell does look good from what I've seen. Right. People. Let's keep getting into the chat here. Palmer, Estavio, Santos, a buff striker and a class defender next season. Something might happen. I'd add to that Petrovic back, or go out, sign a top class goalkeeper. You know, do you know? It's funny, right? I did a video when I first started YouTube. It was like my first video that ever proper banged, yeah. And it was how to rebuild Chelsea FC, and it had Mauricio Pochettino as the manager and whatnot. And I was saying that you should go and get David Raya from Brentford. He was at Brentford at the time. I said we should go and get David Raya. Look how he's been at Arsenal, how good he's been, you know. And we kind of thought that in Robert Sanchez we might be getting our version of that, and we ain't. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think you need to go and spend ridiculous amounts of money on a goalkeeper, but we need either Petrovic there or a new goalkeeper. The thing with buying a new one is I think Petrovic is very good. And also, it's like, we've got like 6-7 keepers to our books. Mike Penders is someone that everyone says is going to be really good. Factual FIFA, we've spoke all stream for an hour about the protests. Do I agree with them? Yeah, I don't disagree with any protests happening. I think that it's clear to see that the board are prioritising profit over immediate success at this moment in time right now. But yeah, plenty coming in. People, get your super chats in if you want them read out. And we done saying the other day, and people were loving this with the super chats, they were putting their birthdays in, and I was looking up and telling them who they've got the same birthdays as. I have got the same birthday as Tyson Fury, Jesper Gronkia, the man that scored a goal that will be forever cemented into Chelsea Football Club folklore, history. It was the goal that many regard as being the goal that forced Roman Abramovich, or made Roman Abramovich's decision up on whether to buy Chelsea or Spurs, who he was also looking at, right? That's actually a little bit of, what's it called? Mandela effect, where you get things wrong over time. Is that what it's called? History rewritten. We only actually needed a draw to finish fourth in that game, and we were drawing when Gronkia scored. So there you go. But I share my birthday with Jesper Gronkia. He's a good one. Who else? Mario Balotelli. And my daughter shares her birthday with John Terry. So I share mine with one of my heroes in Tyson Fury. She shares hers with one of my heroes in John Terry. Shagger. So a quick look at the chat. Supporters should let the owners know what they think. Yeah, definitely, 100%. And what better way to do it, than with a protest? So I completely, again, like, I agree with it. I agree with the protest. The point I made is that I think I want to give things until the end of the next transfer window, right? That time frame, 4 or 5 months, 4 months on from now, whatever, 5 months, whatever it is. I think I want to give it until then before I firmly plant my flag and go, no, owners out. I'm leaning towards it at the moment, but as I've said, protests don't do that much, unfortunately, in terms of making all that much of a difference. ultimately, you're not going to pull on the heartstrings of these people. They don't love Chelsea Football Club. They didn't grow up Chelsea fans. Roman loved us, and we've almost like not got deluded, but I don't know. We were in a whirlwind romance for so long with our owner that was just unlike any other owner in football. I know you can state some clubs, you know, Man City, Real Madrid and whatnot, but like we did have that owner that didn't really care about what he was losing, what he was making. He just cared about winning on the pitch, and you'd go a long way to find another owner like that. And if people are in favour of, you know, the board leaving, Eghbali leaving, let's go into a hypothetical world where that could happen, which I don't think it can, but let's say it could. What do you think about Bowley? He's come under fire for the vivid seats thing, but when I read out those Bowley signings to you, right? And by the way, base this on the intention of the signing. Not how the signing turned out, the intention of the signing. Todd Bowley in that first window. I'm not going to read you out all of them, but when he was in charge, he brought in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. That was a signing for the manager, that albeit he went and sacked, but for the manager that manager wanted. He wasn't a young player. He wasn't a player that he was going to make massive profit on or any profit on, and didn't. But he was a player that the manager said, I believe this guy can instantly improve us. And that shows ambition from Todd Bowley to want to instantly improve. He also signed the likes of Koulibaly. Remember, don't rate this on how it turned out. Rate it on the intention of the signing. Koulibaly, an experienced defender who had been doing his thing in Serie A and had been looking good for years. Yeah, he brought Koulibaly in. Okay, so intention-wise, good. Raheem Sterling, the player with, I think, probably the most goal contributions in the season before in the Premier League when he was lighting it out for Man City, I believe. I'm not certain on that, but I think intention to up our level in the here and now. And then when you speak about a young player being brought in, he went all out to get Enzo Fernandez, right? Now, I think that Moises Caicedo, and everyone would pretty much agree with this, Moises Caicedo has turned out the better value for money out of those two that were signed. But again, he went out and got Enzo Fernandez. So there was a mixture of, young players who we're going to spend big on, like an Enzo Fernandez, but players for the here and now also. So it's interesting because despite there being a few more shady things going on and whatnot, I think that you can look at the signings and the ambition of the signings to instantly improve us and say that when Todd Bowley was leading the recruitment drive, we showed more ambition to instantly improve and up our game than what we have recently. So we shouldn't just see this protest for Chelsea and ourselves. It's bigger than our club. This protest should be to protect our league and the beautiful sport from these leeches trying to Americanise football. Joey with an electronic dicky mic. What's that? I don't really know what you're on about. This is a Shure SM7B. This is like the best microphone you can get. Right, people, I'm going to be live for another 10, 20 minutes, tops. So, get your questions in. If you've got anything non-Chelsea related, now's the time, because it'll be in the last sort of 10 minutes. But if you're going to start asking me how many threesomes I've had and stuff like that, like I was getting in the last stream, then they're going to have to be super chats, my friend. If it's a super chat, I'll answer anything. But there's certain ones that just come in the normal chats that I'm not answering. Here we go. Super chat come in from... Let me get the name right. 2 secs. Ashutosh Padja. I hope I've pronounced that right, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Joey, don't think that Hap haphazard spending by Todd, we have a situation where we are spending / paying less. Yeah, I do. I completely agree with that. Thank you very much, by the way, for the super chat. That window under Todd Boehly, we have to remember, when I go back to it, I read out the incomings, yeah? So, there was... Right. I'll read you everyone we spent money on. And this is for the super chat that's just come in. The super chats are going to be prioritised, and I will go into more detail with my answers to those questions, and I'll answer anything. But for the super chat that's just come in, we spent money that window when Todd Boehly first came in on Slanina, João Felix, Davidatro Fofana, Aubameyang, Andre Santos, Casadei, Chukwuemeka, Gusto, Noni Madueke, Benoit Badiashile, Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, Cucurella, Mudryk, Fofana, Enzo, right? In that window, because you're on about, has that not put us in a situation now that we're in? And I think to an extent, but I actually think to a smaller extent than you would think. Because in that window, more than we outlaid, by the way, we bought in, more than we outlaid, we bought the money in through the sales of Kennedy, Malang Sarr, Batshuayi, Lukaku, Billy Gilmore, Jorginho, Emerson, and Timo Werner. And then, I'll just read you out for the next window. Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Kovacic, Koulibaly, Pulisic, Mendy, Lukaku. That was a loan, but we got a fee. So what I'm saying here is we were making money in the meantime. Do you know what I mean? So it will have set us back, but it hasn't set us back as far as people may believe. Football Heritage Gallery, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Appreciate that. Should have got a question in with it. I'll always answer the questions that come in with the super chats. So yeah, I do think we're in a position where, yeah, of course, there are players who, let's say for example, we sell Mykhailo Mudryk right now. If he didn't have a suspension, possibly a ban, if we sold him right now, what will we get for him? I don't know. We'll be lucky to get 40 million. So we'll have lost out there. We'll have lost out on money there. But we got more than we paid, I think, or about the same for Kai Havertz. Mason Mount, I mean, look at how things have gone for him at Man United. We brought in money there. We got a lot more back than I would have thought for the likes of Aubameyang, Koulibaly. That was with help from the Saudis and whatnot. So, yeah. I don't know. I think that to an extent, the work done by Boehly in that first window is definitely the reason why in this window we had to sell the likes of Conor Gallagher and whatnot. And it's probably unfair that that gets labelled with the other side of the run-ins of the club. But I think there's good ones in there as well. I think there's guys that have really, probably upped their value and stuff, especially in terms of Malo Gusto, Noni Madueke. We know that Carney Chukwuemeka did. He was signed for around 20 million. I think he'll move on for 40-ish or something like that. And even getting fees back for the likes of Aubameyang and whatnot is still good. Football Heritage Gallery, 199. Thank you very much, bro, for the super chat. All the super chats we get read out as soon as they come in. We need to keep chanting Roman's name at games. Yeah, it's more the away games you'll get that. The away fans will be chanting for Roman Abramovich all the time. Matty Dav has Roman Abramovich tattooed on his leg. Yeah. I hope that Roman knows how much we love him. Of course he knows. But it is. Do you know what? The other night I was lying in bed, and you know these like emotional TikToks that come up and that, yeah. Then they always have another love. You know that another love. Tom Odell or whatever. It was that, and it was just Roman from when he, like, pictures of him when he signed and video, not signed, like when he bought the club and videos and that, all the way to lifting the Champions Leagues and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh, it's pulling on my heartstrings. It was pulling on my heartstrings. Do you know what? Ah, right. It ain't a super chat, but L Rob is always in the chat. L Rob 26, I'll read it. Are you headlining in your next fight since you said your opponent is from the location of the event? No, I'm not headline. I'll probably be high up on the card, but the headline bout's sick. Like, if you're a Misfits fan, you'll like that headline bout. It's a headline bout that everyone would want to see. And it's high level. It's not, you know, when we're talking about influencer level and whatnot. Look, I sound like a big head here. I class the level that I box at as high level for influencer level. Now, you got to understand that for influencer level, you saw that Afghan Dan guy fight the other night. You know what I mean? Look at his fight. That was tragic. So, for influencer level, that's like low level, yeah? I just boxed a Golden Gloves winner in my last fight. That's high level. Golden Gloves winners, 9 out of 10 times can go on and turn professional and whatnot. So, yeah. But, yeah, the fight that's headlining the card that I'm going to box on is high level. Very high level. Possibly one of, if not the highest level fight that Misfits has ever put on. If it is that fight that I'm led to believe. If it is that fight that I'm led to believe, it's... Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's the highest level fight that Misfits has ever put on. So, pro level. Oh. Praying for everything to go back to pre-war phase. Can we just get Roman back? No, I don't think we can. I don't think they'd allow it. Because there's one thing that the UK... Not the UK, because I don't want to put the public into that. The people that run this country will never do, and it's admit when they're wrong. Do you know what I mean? We're run by a load of fucking idiots. Keir Starmer, what a cock. Absolute cock, that fella. But yeah, country's run by a load of fucking idiots, so they don't want to admit if they've got something wrong, stuff like this. Am I primarily doing super chats today? It's not so much primarily, but I've always said, like, no one would ever send a super chat and I don't read it out. Do you know what I mean? There was one guy in the last one that was sending some weird things in, but I was reading them out. You know what I mean? Because they're super chats. It's not that I'm prioritising. It's not that I won't read nothing from the chat, but I'm a bit more selective with what I choose, because there's plenty of stuff coming in, and if I read all of them, I end up getting really behind, and when I end up getting really behind on the chat, people don't like it. So it's one of them, right? Which Victor do you choose for a striker? What other I was about to say what other Victor is there, and then I realised people get annoyed if I say anything bad about Osman, and I'm not about to say anything bad about Osman, but I feel like the saga of us trying to get him is one that's drained me quite a lot. So, Gyökeres, if that's even how it's pronounced. Two-tier Karma, wank. Yeah, Keir Karma's a cock. I liked Boris, to be honest. I didn't mind him. Prime Ministers in my lifetime, who have I not minded? Because there's never really been anyone. I mean, what year did Thatcher go? That weren't my lifetime, was it? I was born in 94. I think she went in like 90. So Thatcher I never had. But prime ministers in my lifetime, for anyone that's bothered, this is the last 10 minutes or so, people. We'll go down a non-sport related route, and if the views drop down, I don't really care, because it is what it is. We just start talking a bit of shit now for the last bit. So get your super chats in if you want some life advice, if you want anything non-sport related disclosed. Prime ministers in my lifetime, who have I not minded? Gordon Brown just didn't have a fucking clue what he was doing. So he was kind of like maybe how some Americans feel about Biden, where it's like, you ain't got a clue what's going on. Didn't really like Tony Blair, looks a bit weaselly. David Cameron, wasn't too bad. Theresa May, she was well out of her depth, wasn't she? Boris, quite liked him, Boris. But he had a shit hand dealt to him in terms of that some of these prime ministers went through time periods that were quite easy for the UK. So yeah. Right. Also, thank you for the repost on Twitter. What was the repost? I don't remember doing it, but yeah, no worries. Fans need to start boycotting all Chelsea matches. Mate, do you know what? It would take for something mental to happen. Because of our ground being small, right? Purely on tourism alone, 40,000 could sell for a game at Stamford Bridge, believe me, on tourism. And you see those tourists, yeah? And I'm not saying 40,000 tourists, but like tourists and then hospitality and then season ticket holders that are already going, yeah, okay, they can boycott games, season ticket holders can, but at the same time, we live in an economy where it's like, not everyone's got disposable income and loads of disposable income, so pretty hard to ask people to part with their money sometimes, do you know what I mean? Like, when they've spent a lot on a season ticket, you know, and then, oh, we're going to boycott the games, which like, okay, yeah, but you got to remember there's some people, like, let's say, for example, me and my old man, right? When we're younger and we're using season tickets to go to the game, when I'm 8, right? Imagine this was going on then. I wouldn't really understand all that much. All I know is, like, my nice day out is going up to Chelsea with my dad. So, like, there'll be people like that who, even if protests are going on or fans boycotting games, will still go. Then tourism, then whatnot. So because we've got a small stadium, we wouldn't be affected much, I don't think, from boycotting, because there's such a demand. Like, every time I ask for tickets, like, now I used to have to go through one person, now I have to go through 2, sometimes 3, do you know what I mean? Sometimes 4. It's non-stop, mate. Matty Davson, man, he normally sorts them out. Left ear is the only audio working, so yeah. Priyanka Ray, I'm an Indian, so what do you think about Rishi Sunak? Has Rishi been Prime Minister? Yeah, he has, hasn't he? Didn't he come before Keir Starmer just had a short stint? I think Rishi was Prime Minister for a bit. Rishi will always be remembered to me as the guy in charge of furlough. So when the pandemic hit, I think he was in charge of furlough, wasn't he? So I quite liked him then, because I was a self-employed PT, and I was obviously hit badly by the pandemic. I stopped earning money, PTing clients and training people and whatnot, being, you know, a self-employed personal trainer. So the money that was given out and stuff like that, and he being in charge of that furlough money, that helped me. So he had funded me in a way there. But during his stint, probably quite neutral. Preferred him to Starmer. I hate Keir Starmer. He's a wanker. Hate him. But Sunak was alright. Yeah, middle. In the middle of them all. Not the worst, not the best. Theresa May territory, you know, on the tier list. Churchill was God. Yep, so I've heard. Let's check in with Josh. Let's check in with Josh Aveste. Joshua Aveste, you are live on the Joey Knight podcast live stream. Please do not swear. What's going on with the video? Are we bringing it out today? The chatter wanting to know. We have got the biggest mugs on the internet coming out today. Me and Josh both picked, I think it was 2 each. 2 each. Yeah, 4 in total. So we picked 2 each. And yeah, that's coming out. But I think he's sorting a thumbnail saying it's going to be out later. You'd retweeted my tweet about you saying Dean ducked Cray Cray and your upcoming kickboxing opponent. Appreciate it, because the support after that was crazy for me. Oh, sick. Nice. Good. Well, I'm glad that it benefited you. But, yeah. Cray Cray. Yeah, Dean ducked Cray Cray. Dean ducked me. Dean got offered Cray Cray a couple of times. Me, a couple of times. And as for my next opponent, I only believe that Dean was offered him. I believe Dean was offered him for Dublin. I don't know that. It's not like I know that from Mams or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. I just think. I know that my next guy wanted to fight Dean. And he was on at Mams to fight Dean. Do you know what I mean? And then Mams ended up turning around and saying to him, right, Dean's not happening. But what about Joey? And apparently he said that he was up for fighting me. So I think this guy's gonna be up for fucking fighting anyone, isn't he? When it gets announced, people that understand why. Listen, I'm going into the fight. I'm confident that I win the fight. And I'm confident that I put on a really good performance in this one. I've never lost before, so it's my first time ever coming off a loss, and I feel like coming off of a loss, I had to go tough with the opponent. Like, honestly, I've said this before. There's no point making secret of it. Brian's a huge help to me. Do you know what I mean? And him being on the small council and whatnot meant that I got in the tournament, after only one fight on Misfits. Do you know what I mean? I could have maybe got in there, but Brian was what got me in there. Do you know what I mean? And he helps me out with a lot of stuff behind the scenes and that. And if he wanted, or if I wanted, an easier touch for this opponent, I could have got one. But we let it be known that, right, okay, I've boxed Cray Cray, I've lost to Cray Cray, I lost fair and square, I scored it 3-2, as did the judges, but I don't now want to drop down in level and rebuild, because it's not like I've been knocked spark out or something like that. I just lost a close fight. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that there was no need to rebuild, and therefore I said, put me in with anyone. Put me in with Cray Cray again, asked him to fight Dean, said I'd be open to fighting Yadi, Argentinian King, everyone. I said to Mams, and Mams have backed this up, and obviously said it to Brian and whatnot, but this is a guy who hasn't boxed on Misfits, and it got offered, and I was like, yeah, that's tasty, because to be able to say that I've got a victory over someone who has the accolades that he does would be really, really good. Really good. Dangerous opponent. Banger. I think he's got good punch power, and I think he'll be confident that he can get to me. I think he will, because I mean, look, I said this about the Cray Cray fight and was completely wrong. So who knows? But I can't see this opponent going on the back foot and trying to look for a chess match with me. I think he's going to come for war and excitement. And I know that I'm going to do the same. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm going to do the same. I'm not going 2 fights in a row, hardly landing any shots on someone, even if it meant winning in that way. Like, you know what I mean? Just outboxing him off the back foot. I'm not going to go 2 fights in a row doing that. I've never gone 2 fights in a row. I've never had a fight where I've landed as little as I did in that Cray Cray fight. I only really started landing consistent punches round 4, and then a lot of them in round 5 on Cray Cray. But by that time, the job was too late and it was done. I was 3 rounds down. So, well, 2 rounds down because I won the 4th. But going in, I knew that I needed a knockout into that 5th round. And before, during my time when I had 10 fights before Misfits, I've never had easy opponents, and I've never had back-to-back flat performances and stuff like that. So, yeah, I lost the fight, but I didn't lose in devastating fashion. No need to rebuild. Let's go in with someone fucking tough and who's done a lot, like 5-time world champion. And when it gets announced, you'll see it's a big roll of the dice. Do you know what I mean? It's enemy territory. So, watch Chelsea win against Aston Villa and you'll see a lot of fans not showing up to the protest. Yep. Does your missus come to your fights? Yeah. Yeah. She's been at... how many? 12 out of 13. Wasn't in Nashville. But, yeah, every other fight I've had in the UK, yeah. Yeah. Watch how Marcus Maidana fights. Do you think you could replicate that rough and rowdy approach for 6 to 8 rounds? No. I don't think I could replicate it. I know I could replicate it. I'm fit, mate. I run sub 25Ks. I can do some good things on them sprints and whatnot. Like, I was live doing the corner last night, right, for a kid from the gym, Max. He was fighting on the old shows that I used to fight on the unlicensed scene. And he's shit hot. Like, he won unanimous decision, highly decorated amateur against another decorated amateur. But now they're fighting on the unlicensed scene. And, like, he's a young kid coming through. Like, miles better than me, by the way. He's sick. He'll go on and be a good pro if he wants to do it and dedicate his life to it and whatnot. But I'm fitter than him in terms of being able to, like, on a running machine and stuff like that. So it's about knowing you need to do it and employing it into your tactics from round one. And obviously the loss to Cray Cray has definitely taught me that. Some fights you'll be able to just win it on skill, but some fights you need to employ that Marcus Maidana style approach. Joey, no glaze. I think you're the perfect lightweight champ for misfits. You hit like a truck, you're entertaining, you big yourself up and chat to your opponent, and you can actually make content despite being in camp. Thank you very much, bro. I really appreciate that. I think I'm the perfect lightweight champion too. Let's fucking hope I actually become it. Because I thought I'd be it now. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I started on Misfits, Box Most Wanted, you got to remember, people, do you know how many people turned down that fight? Like, that Most Wanted took? It was supposed to be Dave Fogarty, that fight, yeah? And then, for whatever reason, I'm not saying Dave turned it down, but he, to my knowledge, accepted the fight and then realised that he had work to do with Conor McGregor, which is his main job. It earns him more than Misfits. He earns well. Do you know what I mean? And he had to prioritise that. So there's no, like, shade on Fogarty's name, but it went from being Fogarty to then getting offered to Pulley, to then getting offered to a few more people, a couple of people you'll all know that I won't name, and the last name it landed on was Most Wanted, and I boxed him. So it was what it was. But I knew from the start, right? And then Baby Hulk, I didn't pick Baby Hulk. He was in the tournament and that was drawn. I was drawn up against Baby Hulk. Then I come up against Cray Cray. Cray Cray was never really in my plans because when I come onto Misfits, I'd never heard of Little Cray Cray. I only found out about him once he come to the tournament. Like, I didn't know him before, but Yuddy I knew, and Dean I knew, and Walid I knew. Do you know what I mean? So, as in, like, I knew they were on the scene. So, in my head, without anyone new coming in, I thought, yes, I'll be able to conquer this division by the end of the year. So I thought I'd be Misfits champion already, but clearly not. But it's good, man, because people are going to underestimate me big time in my next fight because they're going to go, yeah, he got outboxed by Cray Cray. And it's like, okay, yeah, sweet. But don't think that that's just a blueprint that can be followed by everyone now. One, I'm better than that. You've got to be really, really fucking good to be able to do that. Two, I now know what to do when that happens. Someone goes on the back foot and doesn't let go of more than one shot at a time or whatever. You know what I mean? I know what to do now. And I won't go into any specifics. I've never made excuses, but my body will allow me to do what I need to do now also. And that's a very important thing. JR24. I know fuck all about boxing. How long before we know about your next fight and how long till it happens? I want to watch because I finally got someone to support. Appreciate that, bro. I can't. The thing is, if you look on Twitter, people have said, but I'm not supposed to say. But next fight is in not long. It's in about 8 weeks. And yeah, hopefully you'll know about it within the next couple of weeks. I want to name the opponent. I think people will be excited. Hi Joey, how's things going? Is the Apprentice video still on the cards? What Apprentice video? I don't remember. I don't remember speaking about the Apprentice or a video. No pod today. The podcast today, it is coming. Oh, Josh has messaged me back. The guy's not made the fucking thumbnail. Not Josh, by the way. The guy that makes the thumbnails. What is he saying? Basically, he's just saying the thumbnail guy is late. I can do a makeshift one. Right, so the guy that makes the thumbnails, he's not sent the thumbnail over, but the video is ready to upload on the Joey and Josh. Rematch with Rimu if you win your next fight. Yeah, Rimu is Little Cray Cray for those who don't know. A rematch with him isn't in the script as I know it. And what I mean by that is what I've spoke to Mams about and the footpath for what will be next. But yeah, if you know Cray Cray by first name basis, then you 1,000,000% know the opponent after this one, even when I win in a couple of months' time. Yeah, so yeah, you'll know him. He's box Cray Cray. Or if Dean will take the fight, then maybe it'll be Dean after this one. But Dean's turned down the fight me before, so how can you think that? Yeah. Thank God for that, mate. Needed something to sit down and watch after dinner. Yeah, that should be up today. Should be up. Someone's asking what my record is. It's 12-1. 12 wins, 1 loss. Unlucky number 13. Good luck, Joey. You got this. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. What do you think about playing tossing as number 9? Fucking hell, I can think of better people to put in there before tossing. I'd like to see Pedro Neto put in there. He'd done it a few times for Wolves. Not you know, regular, but he had done it for Wolves before. I think he could do something. Would it be hypocritical to attend the protest and then the match? No, of course not. Not at all. Not at all. It's our fucking club. It's our club. It's not their club. It's ours. We do what we want. It's not hypocritical at all. You don't. You're protesting against the own. If you're a Chelsea fan, you're protesting against the ownership. The club is ours. It doesn't matter whether they own it. The club's ours. Yeah. So it's not hypocritical to protest against the ownership that are hindering the team at this moment in time, and then to go and support the team. That's not hypocritical. Off the script, don't need to answer, but would you ever consider going on Johnny Minerals podcast like Benson and Younes did? Yeah, I need to watch this Johnny Minerals guy. I need to watch a bit of him, don't I? Because I haven't watched him. And I said to you after the last stream, I went, by the next stream, I'll have watched him and I'll be able to give you an opinion on him. I still haven't watched him. So, no answer for you on that. I need to watch him first. But yeah, I'll be open to going on everyone's podcast. I ain't got a problem with going on different podcasts and whatnot. He seems to get a lot of love, this fella, so I better have a watch of him. But I did hear George talk about him in a video, so I know that that George had been on there. Mate, I was knackered from the boxing last night, right? I come in, I think I got in about 1 a.m. and sleep by like 2, because I went to the whole event and I hadn't eaten all day. So then me and Joe, my coach, went and got a kebab. And then I must have been eating a chicken kebab. No bread, just the meat and a little bit of sauce. So just chicken sheesh, really. I must have been eating that about 1 a.m. Then went to bed. And I didn't wake up until like 11 this morning. Am I on Brian's stream of Beterbiev against Bivol next week? Yep. Of course. Yeah. When's the next Joey and Josh coming out today? Next Joey and Josh coming out today. People, this is the last 5 minutes I'm going to do. If you want anyone shouted out or anything answered, get them in the super chats now. But this is the last 5 minutes, so get your last ones in, last few questions. What's your end goal? What is the end goal for you in Misfits Boxing? Is there a particular person you want to fight, like Jake Paul having an end goal of fighting Canelo? Do you want to know my honest answer, mate? End goal is to earn as much money as I can for my daughter. You know what I mean? Support my family financially. That's the end goal. And however that comes, that would be what decides where the end goal is. Do you know what I mean? So, say for example, if I said, oh, the end goal is to become the champion, but then I got offered a fight that paid me more money than a title fight, then I'll take the fight that pays me more money. So then I suppose you've got to say the end goal is always going to be the finances. But if you take aside the finances, the end goal would be to finish with wins over Dean, Yuddy, Cray Cray, Argentinian King, yeah, they're the 4 that I'm like, right, I want to finish with wins over you. I'm not saying I want to lose to anyone else, but yeah, obviously a title will come with that. So they're the 4 that I'm like, I want to fight and I want to beat, yeah, at some point in this Misfits career of mine. They're the 4. Is there anyone else? I mean, the guy I'm fighting, obviously, would be number 5, but I'm fighting him. But yeah, to get wins over them 4, because I rate him as the best 4 in the division. Ace Musa, again, is definitely up there with the best in the division. But yeah. So, yeah, I suppose that'll be my goal, to finish with wins over them boys. And belts and titles will come along. What's next on Joey and Josh? It's biggest mugs on the internet, where we just give a few people and just take the piss out of them, basically. Does Joey fight under his name or an alias? No, my name. I mean, my name is Joseph. My name on my passport is Joseph Henry Patrick Knight. But yeah, Joey Knight's my name. It's not an alias. I haven't really got a nickname. When I used to box on the Quest back in the day, which was the Queensbury, they used to call me the Showman and the Bronzed Bomber, because I always had a suntan. The Bronzed Bomber I liked. The Bronze Bomber is Deontay Wilder, but I was the Bronzed Bomber. I quite like that one. That was alright. Maybe I should start going by it again. But yeah, they used to call me that on there, but I've never made one for myself. It's been like where I fought on that circuit, the ring announcer and the promoter know me well, so they're like, right, we're just gonna call him this. But I've never got got one and promoted it. Right, super chat's coming in. Thank you very much, Priyanka Ray. Really appreciate that. Get Josh to attend the protest. Justice for Mudrick. Another super chat coming from Mr. Brightside. Thank you very much, mate. No question, but just wanted to thank you for the commentary. You're a legend. No, you're a legend, my friend. And I tell you what, you got a great name, Mr. Brightside, because what a tune that is. Thank you very much, Mr. Brightside. I really appreciate that. Try and send in a message. I'm going to be live for a few more minutes, so Please let Josh know. Please let Josh know we would like to know more about him. The same way you did by Thailand stories, etc. He should do the same. Completely agree. 100%. 100%. Do you know what it is to be truthful with that though, right? Is like Josh has loads of stories. At the same time, Josh will openly admit himself he's not lived as crazy a life as me. Do you know what I mean? Josh hasn't gone travelling to Thailand and stuff like that, and hasn't, you know, Josh is what you'd want your son to be like. Do you know what I mean? Just a good laugh, gets on with everyone, but doesn't get in trouble, and doesn't, do you know what I mean? And whatever. And I'm probably the son that fucking gives parents nightmares, do you know what I mean? So I'm obviously going to have more of them style of stories, getting nicked and stuff like that in Thailand. Like, Josh ain't ever been nicked, has he? But yeah, you're definitely right on it. Definitely need to have more stuff from Josh's past and that. But there is, we've got the video where we're talking about traveling and whatnot, and he's talking about his places he's been to, holidays he's been on, things he's done and whatnot. This one that's coming out today, the biggest mugs on the internet, I think I give my 2, he gives his 2, so you get an insight into, there's loads of stuff about Josh and Joey and Josh. But I think people like the true crime stuff the most. Let me know. Let me know. Most people haven't lived as crazy a life as Joey. Mr. Brightside, you don't know half of it, mate. Fucking no. I couldn't tell about 75% of my life, what's happened on camera. Don't worry, I'm not a nonce or something. Sounds a bit, just, you know, a lot of criminal activity. More true crime. Yeah. I think there's a few true crime cases that I want to do. There's a woman called Tanya Head, and she basically claimed that she was inside the Twin Towers when it was hit. So was her husband. And, you know, she was a grieving widow, right? She got out. Her husband didn't. She describes all the experience, whatever. She became head of the Survivors Foundation, the Survivors Trust. They were there. They were there when they opened up the Newgrounds era with the water fountains and whatnot, and she gave the speech and everything and whatever. And then it turned out she didn't even live in America when that happened. She was just a major bullshitter. I want to do a podcast on that, because there's a lot of bits I'd like to show you lot from that. That's sort of true crime. So if that sounds like a bit of you, let me know. We want to do Madeleine McCann. Ooh, we don't want to do Madeleine McCann. That sounds weird. Although at this age, if she's still alive, it would be legal. So keep that in mind. We want to do a podcast on Madeleine McCann, but we just don't know when the right time to do it is. We don't know when the right time to do it is. Won't give you any spoilers for it, but I probably don't agree with the media narrative of who did it or what happened. I'd like to hear yours and Josh's options. I think you mean opinions on iconic cases like Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, McCann. Yeah. Turn your head. On her birthday. We're exactly where we should expect to be. In and around top 4. Fans should not be crying. Don't know about that, mate. Don't know about that. Right, people. I think I'm going to love you all and leave you all. It's been another good one. Good stream. Trying to think when the next one will be. I'll try and get one in for the week, because obviously it's good, these streams. People get a much better chance to connect with you and whatnot. So I'll try and get another one going through the week. I'll put it out on my story. So if you follow me on social media or Instagram, what you're not